They'll tell you they're fine, but you can feel the fracture in their voice. Pretending becomes a survival skill, a shield polished so convincingly that even they start believing it. The mind learns to hide pain before it heals it, creating a self-built trap. What they fear most isn't breaking, it's being seen breaking. Silence becomes their safest language. They copy the expressions of others, replaying normal behavior like a rehearsed script. Their brain studies every micro-interaction just to pass as okay. Pretending becomes less about lying and more about avoiding the weight of explaining their wounds. They don't stay silent because they don't trust you. They stay silent because they don't trust their own weight. They think their emotions will inconvenience everyone around them. This belief chains them to isolation, even in rooms full of people. Great figures have done the same. Abraham Lincoln's melancholy, Virginia Woolf's facade, Van Gogh's forced composure. Society has always rewarded strength, but punished vulnerability, teaching people to hide the very emotions that need care. Inside, they constantly bargain with themselves. If I stay quiet, maybe the feeling will disappear. But feelings aren't guests, they're squatters. The more they deny them, the deeper they root. Their calm appearance is an internal war in disguise. They don't avoid emotions because they're weak. They avoid them because they've survived too many emotional collapses already. Avoidance becomes a coping mechanism that feels safe, even if it slowly eats them alive from the inside. People pretending to be okay become experts at controlled microexpressions. Their smiles are timed, their laughter is measured, their voice stays steady, but their hands betray tremors. Their body speaks truths their mouth can't. Internal breakdowns rarely look dramatic. They happen in silence, late at night, between breaths. In the seconds after the lights turn off, they cry without sound, panic without movement, break without witnesses. The biggest lie they tell isn't to others, it's to themselves. I can handle this. Self-deception becomes easier than admitting the truth. They cling to the illusion of strength because vulnerability feels like defeat. No matter how strong the mask is, the truth eventually leaks through. A pause too long, a laugh too forced, a stare too empty. People sense it, even if they don't understand it. This is the crack that reveals everything they fought to hide. They rehearse emotional neutrality the same way soldiers rehearse drills, automatic, rigid, necessary. But tiny fractures creep in, a delayed answer, a shaky laugh, a glance that lingers too long on something painful. These microsigns betray internal overload. The danger is simple. Once you've lived behind a mask long enough, you start forgetting what your real face looks like. Here's the part nobody likes to admit. The collapse usually starts quietly. No dramatic screams, no cinematic breakdown. It begins with small withdrawals, canceled plans, shorter replies, disappearing from group chats. You think they're busy. They're actually running out of emotional oxygen. And the fear? If they stop pretending, the people around them might finally see how fragile they've become. They collect unspoken hurts the way some people hoard junk, stacked, hidden, disorganized. Each memory presses down heavier than the last. But instead of throwing anything out, they convince themselves they'll deal with it later. Later never comes. Emotional hoarding becomes emotional suffocation, yet they keep smiling because admitting overload feels like admitting weakness. To survive, they share just enough pain to seem honest, but never enough to be understood. It's a controlled leak, one that keeps others off their trail. They tell a watered-down version of their struggle, testing whether anyone notices the missing pieces. Most people don't, and that reinforces the belief that full honesty is either unsafe or pointless. They twist their personality into whatever shape the moment demands. With friends, the comedian. With family, the stable one. Alone, the exhausted version they never show. This constant shifting becomes muscle memory. The risk? Eventually, they lose track of what's real and what's performance. Pretending becomes their default identity. When emotional strain reaches critical levels, the body sends warnings. Heart pressure, headaches, irritability, fatigue that no sleep fixes. But they dismiss the signals because acknowledging them means facing the truth. The body becomes the whistleblower, the mind keeps trying to silence. You can only ignore red alerts for so long before something breaks. They believe their emotions are too heavy, too complicated, too much. So they self-censor, they minimize. They tell themselves others have it worse. Ironically, the people they protect would often prefer honesty over silence. But the fear of being a burden overrides logic, trapping them in a cycle of quiet suffering. They watch themselves drift away from people they once trusted, like an observer rather than a participant. Conversations become scripted. Laughter feels rehearsed. Relationships feel like faded photographs, once vibrant, now monochrome. This disconnection isn't chosen. It's a survival response to overwhelm. But every step back deepens the loneliness. Two forces battle inside them, the voice saying, "Tell someone," and the louder voice insisting, "Stay strong." This conflict drains more energy than the mask itself. They want to be seen, but fear what visibility exposes. They crave support, yet reject it on instinct. It's not indecision, it's emotional combat. Every fake smile is a withdrawal from an emotional bank account already in debt. Eventually, the interest accumulates into burnout, numbness, or sudden breakdowns nobody saw coming. People say, "But you always looked fine." That's the tragedy. They rewarded the mask, not the person. Pretending feels easier than correcting that misunderstanding. They start noticing the tiny fractures, lost focus, short breaths, slipping words. They tell themselves it's nothing. But the mind keeps tapping like a leak behind a wall. Pressure builds quietly. It always does. And because they fear being too much, they grab the nearest emotional duct tape instead of admitting the structure is failing. Pretending has a cost. Constant monitoring, constant masking, constant rehearsing of "I'm fine." It drains energy faster than actual pain. They end each day feeling like an actor who spent hours performing a script that no one asked for. They collapse privately, knowing tomorrow demands the same performance. This fear isn't dramatic, it's mathematical. They calculate every emotion like it has a dollar value. They believe others are already carrying too much, so their own pain must stay hidden. They don't see that this silent self-denial is what deepens their isolation. The collapse rarely includes screaming or breaking things. It's subtle. A forgotten message, a skipped meal, a blank stare at the wall. Their spirit bends quietly because loud breakdowns would expose them. Silence feels safer, even when it's killing them slowly. Here's the punch. The moment they truly break isn't when the pain peaks. It's when they realize nobody caught it. That realization hits harder than the hurt itself. They wonder how invisible they must be for their suffering to go unnoticed. That thought shapes their identity more than the pain ever did. They start controlling small things, cleaning obsessively, overworking, perfecting routines. These rituals don't heal them. They distract them from feelings they don't have the capacity to face. Control becomes a coping structure, fragile and temporary. Eventually, they numb out, not intentionally, just as a survival reflex. Their brain dulls the emotional noise to keep functioning. But numbness isn't peace. It's a silent warning that the system is shutting down. They start labeling themselves as weak for feeling this way, even though their ability to function under pain is proof of the opposite. But internal narratives are powerful, and once the mind believes it's broken, it stops asking for help altogether. Underneath it all, they desperately want someone to notice without being told. They want a quiet, "Are you sure you're okay?" from someone who actually means it, even if they deny it verbally. Emotionally, they're starving for that single moment of genuine recognition. Here's the truth they hide. Pretending is easier than risking rejection. But silence is the slowest kind of self-destruction. If this hits you in a place you don't talk about, don't disappear into that silence. Lean in, even a little. Watch the next video. It might pull you out of your own mask more than you expect.